You look in the bedroom mirror. Your legs look almost exactly the same as they did 10 years ago. The skin might be slightly looser, but the shape is familiar. But lately, they feel incredibly heavy when you try to walk up a simple flight of stairs. You might think this is just the normal part of getting older, the natural slowing down of your human machinery, but there is actually a silent biological clock ticking deep inside your cells, and there is one specific birthday, one exact year, where this invisible muscle loss suddenly accelerates by a terrifying 300%. I will reveal exactly which year that is, and the one biological switch you can flip to completely reverse it at the very end of this video. But first, we have to take a journey through time. We are going to look at what is truly happening inside your arms and your legs at every major milestone of your senior life. We need to talk about the silent biological thief known as sarcopenia. For the first 5 decades of your life, your brain does an incredible job of masking your physical decline. You lose a tiny bit of muscle in your 30s and 40s, but your nervous system simply rewires itself to hide the weakness. But as you cross the threshold into your senior years, the biological rules of human anatomy completely change. You do not just lose muscle evenly across your entire body. Your system aggressively targets and destroys your fast-twitch muscle fibers. These are the exact explosive power fibers you desperately need to catch your balance if you trip on a loose rug, or to push your entire body weight up from a low toilet seat. When these fast-twitch fibers vanish, they do not grow back on their own. They are replaced by nothing but empty space and functional weakness. Your slow-twitch fibers, the ones you use for slow walking and basic endurance, stay mostly intact. This creates a dangerous biological illusion. You think you are strong because you can still walk a mile, but your raw, explosive power is silently draining away. Let us walk through the exact timeline of what happens to your human machinery, year by year. The journey begins at age 60. We call this stage the whisper. At 60 years old, you still feel relatively young and highly capable in your mind. You can still walk the dog around the neighborhood without losing your breath. You can still carry the grocery bags from the car to the kitchen counter. But the micro weaknesses begin to show up in your daily routine. It is a whisper of what is to come. You notice that a glass jar of jelly is suddenly much harder to twist open, forcing you to grab a towel for extra grip. You realize that recovering from a long afternoon of gardening or cleaning the garage takes 2 full days of resting your lower back instead of just 1. Inside your legs, the fast-twitch fibers are slowly shrinking, pulling away from the bone. The motor neurons in your spinal cord that tell those muscles to fire are beginning to disconnect. Because your endurance fibers are still working perfectly, you brush off these moments of weakness. You tell yourself you just had a long day, or that you slept in a strange position. You are slowly losing raw power, but your walking stamina tricks you into thinking everything is perfectly fine. The whisper of muscle loss is very easy to ignore at 60, but the foundation of your independence is already cracking. Then you hit 65. This is stage 2. We call this the visible shift. Gravity begins to feel noticeably heavier on your skeleton. You sit down in a deep, soft living room sofa to watch television. After an hour, when it is time to stand up to answer the phone or go to the kitchen, you hesitate. You realize that you cannot just use your leg strength to pop up anymore. You have to lean your torso awkwardly forward. Shift your weight over your toes. Place your hands firmly on the armrests and push heavily with your upper body just to break free from the soft cushion. This happens because your gluteus maximus and your quadriceps, the massive engines of your lower body, are beginning to severely atrophy from a lack of heavy physical resistance. Your body is adapting to the comfortable chairs you sit in, and it is literally digesting its own muscle tissue for energy. The shift is no longer invisible. You can physically feel the weakness in your knee joints every single time you try to stand up from a seated position. When you walk down a steep hill, your knees might shake slightly because the muscular brakes in your thighs are no longer thick enough to comfortably absorb the downward force of your own body weight. At 65, the loss of muscle is no longer a whisper. It is a daily physical negotiation with gravity. Stage 3 arrives at age 70. This is the critical breaking point of your entire biological timeline. We call this stage the infiltration. At 70 years old, the rate of your muscle loss does not just increase, it violently doubles. But something even more sinister happens directly beneath your skin. A biological process called myosteatosis begins to take over your lower body. Fat cells begin to actively infiltrate the actual muscle tissue itself. If you look at your bare thigh in the mirror, it might be the exact same physical size it was 10 years ago. It might even look perfectly healthy and robust on the outside, but inside, the muscle architecture looks like a highly marbled piece of steak. It has completely lost its dense, functional power because the muscle is now highly saturated with useless fat deposits. Your brain struggles to send fast electrical signals down your spinal cord to your feet. The electrical current literally gets delayed and absorbed by the fat tissue. This is the exact year you notice your physical balance starting to fail you in real time. You start looking constantly down at your feet when you walk to avoid tripping, because those marbled, fatty muscles can no longer make the lightning fast, micro adjustments needed to keep your ankles perfectly stable. When you step off a street curb, your foot slaps the pavement heavily instead of landing softly, sending a jarring shockwave straight up your spine. You suddenly find yourself reaching out to touch walls or scanning a room for sturdy furniture to hold on to as you navigate your own house. The hormonal support that maintained your strength for decades, like human growth hormone and testosterone, has plummeted. At 70, your body is silently begging for structural intervention, and the physical illusion of your youth is completely shattered. 5 years later, you reach age 75. We call this stage the stability alarm. The fatty infiltration and muscle wasting that started in your legs has now aggressively spread up into your core, your abdominal muscles, and your lower back, which act as the central stabilizing pillar of your human body, are now severely compromised. You notice this sudden vulnerability the most when your physical environment changes. When you step off a perfectly flat concrete sidewalk onto an uneven patch of grass or a loose gravel driveway, your brain instantly recognizes the danger and sends a wave of pure panic down your spine. You feel physically unsteady and fragile, as if a strong gust of wind or a slight bump from a stranger could easily knock you over. This fear is not in your head. It is completely biologically justified. The fast twitch muscle breaks in your thighs that used to act as emergency shock absorbers to stop you from falling forward are mostly gone. To compensate for this terrifying lack of mechanical brakes, your nervous system forces you to change the way you walk. You subconsciously begin to shuffle your feet, keeping your soles as close to the ground as possible to minimize the risk of losing your balance. When you go grocery shopping, the physical fatigue hits you much faster and much harder than it ever did before. It is not your heart or your lungs giving out. It is your skeletal muscle simply running out of chemical energy to hold your heavy bones upright against the relentless pull of gravity. You find yourself leaning heavily on the handle of the shopping cart just to take the crushing pressure off your tired lower back. Because moving requires so much deliberate effort and concentration, you start declining invitations to social events if you know there will be a lot of walking or standing involved. At 75, the biological loss of muscle has officially stolen your physical confidence, and it is actively shrinking the physical size of your world. You are trading your independence for safety. At this point, the joints in your hips and your knees begin to ache constantly. You might blame this on arthritis, but the truth is that your muscles have become too weak to hold the bones apart. The cartilage is grinding together because the muscular suspension system of your body has essentially collapsed. This is the cruel reality of a managed sarcopenia. Finally, you reach age 80. We call this final stage the thin armor. If you have not actively fought against sarcopenia, your muscle mass has reached a critical and dangerous low. Your arms and legs look noticeably thinner. and your skin hangs loosely because the thick, vibrant muscle tissue underneath has completely vanished. At 80, you are no longer walking with your active muscles. You are simply balancing your fragile bones on top of each other and letting gravity do all the work. Your knees and your hips take 100% of the daily impact because there are no muscular shock absorbers left to protect them. The simple act of opening a heavy glass door at a grocery store feels like moving a mountain. Standing up in the shower becomes physically exhausting because your core cannot easily stabilize your spine. You become entirely dependent on your skeletal structure, which is also rapidly weakening from a lack of muscular tension. At this stage, a minor trip and fall in the kitchen is no longer just a bruise. It is a catastrophic event. A fractured hip becomes a life-altering emergency because your thin, muscular armor can no longer absorb the harsh impact of the hard floor. Your physical world shrinks to the size of your living room. This chronological timeline sounds absolutely terrifying, but it absolutely does not have to be your permanent reality. I promise to tell you the exact year your invisible muscle loss suddenly accelerates by 300%. Clinical research shows that this massive biological drop-off happens exactly at age 70. That is the critical year the hormonal support for your muscles plummets and the fat begins to rapidly marble your thighs. But here is the incredible biological truth that gives us absolute hope. The human body is remarkably resilient. Science proves beyond a shadow of a doubt that the muscle tissue of an 80-year-old senior responds to heavy resistance training in the exact same way as the muscle of a 30-year-old Olympic athlete. Your muscles are not just dead pieces of meat attached to your bones. They are highly active endocrine organs, and they are desperate for physical tension. When you contract a muscle against resistance, it releases powerful biochemicals called myokines directly into your bloodstream. These myokines travel to your brain to improve your memory, and they travel to your bones to increase your skeletal density. By simply performing slow, controlled resistance exercises, you flip the biological switch. You do not need to drive to a crowded gym or lift a heavy metal barbell. Simple, deliberate movements like a chair squat, where you slowly lower yourself to a seat and aggressively push your body weight back up, or a wall push in your hallway, create enough mechanical tension to panic your brain in a very good way. When your central nervous system feels this intense physical resistance, it is forced to adapt to survive. It commands your biology to synthesize brand new, fast-twitch muscle fibers. The moment you start forcing your muscles to work against gravity, you burn away those toxic fat deposits inside the tissue. The electrical signals from your spine to your feet become lightning fast once again. Your physical balance returns because those new explosive fibers can instantly catch your body weight when you stumble. You can actually reverse the fatty marbling inside your legs and rebuild your muscular armor in a matter of weeks, completely changing the trajectory of your aging process and permanently reclaiming your physical independence. I want to hear from you right now. As you listen to this timeline, which stage did you recognize in your own body? Are you hearing the whisper of age 60, or are you feeling the terrifying stability alarm of age 75? Please leave a comment below and share your honest experience, because your personal story helps our entire community understand they are not alone in this struggle. If you want to learn exactly how to rebuild your leg strength safely at home, hit the subscribe button right now to join our growing mission. And please hit the like button so the YouTube algorithm shares this vital medical warning with other seniors who desperately need to hear it. We are here to protect your independence with the absolute truth. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.